Hey, what is going on, guys? In today's video, I want to have a conversation about what should be done about all the Garbo items that exist in EZFN. And when I say Garbo items, I mean think of like the infantry rifle, the crossbow before it was vaulted, bottle rockets, these just useless items that aren't viable in any sense and are just taking up space. The reason why I bring this up is because the crossbow was vaulted about a month ago, and I think it points to, hey, if they took care of the crossbow, can we take care of some of these other items to either make them competitively viable, or just is it best just to get rid of them entirely? I'm going to split this video into two parts. First, I'll have a brief discussion of why having Garbo items I think is a real serious issue, and then we'll go into each item I think that would be classed into the Garbo category, and what can be done to fix it. Okay, so why are garbage items just such a huge issue? Well, it's simply because this game is heavily based on RNG and looting early game, and every garbage item that's in the loot pool just exacerbates the problems more and more. The serious issue here is that there's a certain set of items that you need to feel comfortable to be ready to go and be able to engage other players. You're probably going to want a shotgun. You probably want 50 shields. You probably want an AR, right? But the problem is every single garbage item that exists is just reducing the chance you get something actually useful. Every infantry rifle, every crossbow, every bottle rockets is just taking up unnecessary space where you're not able to get what you need. And what that does is it, A, slows down the early game, as you're just having to loot longer and longer, and honestly, it's much more fun, at least in my eyes, to actually engage other players instead of spending the whole game looting. And number two, it just increases RNG massively, because you're just more likely to get these garbage items. And it's not like these items are adding to the interesting parts of the meta, because realistically, there's very few people that are taking an infantry rifle over any of the other usable ARs, the heavy, silenced, and standard, and it's just getting left on the ground anyway. So it's effectively kind of pointless. Now, I just want to say that I think the crossbow vaulting was overall an amazing idea, because the crossbow is just fundamentally useless. Well, sure, there was 1 in 100 shots that you would hit and do like critical damage, and it would feel really good to hit that shot. But the truth of the matter is you would hit that so rarely, no one's really taking the crossbow into the mid game. It's just honestly a waste of space. And I think vaulting it has really helped, as it just means there's one less garbage item to run into when you're looting early game. Yes, a buff might have been possible, but it would have required a fundamental overhaul of the statistics. I think a vault was a decent choice, and I think it overall improved the game. Now, there are really two possible solutions to these kind of items. One is buffing the item to actually be usable. Two is just to vault it outright. Or three, you might make an argument that it's a fun joke item that you can leave. Let's kind of go through each of the items here that I think could, fit into these three categories. Let's start out with the infantry rifle. The infantry rifle is honestly painfully bad. Having a projectile-based system, it's just not good. Ideally, I think we know from playing Project Era that doing a simple conversion from projectile to hit scan is going to be your best solution towards making the infantry rifle actually usable. We saw in Era that the infantry rifle was a very solid choice, and if they can do that, I think that's the best solution for the infantry rifle. Get it to a state where it's actually usable and actually an interesting choice in the meta. Next, I'd say the thermal scope AR is also another Garbo item. The simplest solution I have here is let's just try buffing it to 42 damage. If you get it over 40 damage, it'll take one less hit to eliminate someone from 200 health, which I think will make a noticeable difference. It's not going to make the thermal broken overnight, but it's at least going to help the thermal be a little bit more usable. I also think the scoped AR falls into the same category. And again, Era, we saw when it got buffed to 26-27 damage, it became an alright option. Was it super good? No, but at least became somewhat usable and was a genuine choice. So that's where I think we should go with that. I'd also argue that the gray and green pistol are also in the Garbo class, but they're not so bad. I honestly don't think they're that big of a deal. If you really wanted to fix it, buffing it to 25-26 damage would help. But I also feel like the pistol's kind of just that, it's kind of fine being bad, and I don't really necessarily mind this. So honestly, with the pistol, I'd say really taking no action I think would be okay. Scoped revolver is just another garbage item, and it's not good. And I think what should be done here is considering just giving it a buff from 42-44 damage to what it is now to 50-52. That's an 8 damage buff, and it'll mean that, if you hit 2 perfect headshots, you can eliminate someone from 200 health. That's very difficult to do, but what it'll mean is a scoped revolver actually is kind of a choice because, you'll do actually a decent amount of damage. Again, it's not going to make the scoped revolver busted overnight, but the point is just to give these weapons a little bit of a boost to where they get out of the garbage tier and actually become somewhat usable and somewhat of a choice to use. There's also other items in the loot pool, like bottle rockets. And honestly, with bottle rockets, I don't really see a realistic buff that could fix this problem. I don't see a way that we can make bottle rockets useful without completely overhauling the way they work. So honestly, I think the bottle rockets, the best solution is just a straight vault. Because I don't really see a way in which they could ever become usable. Now, there's also some other items that you could argue are garbo, like the chiller grenade and the sneaky snowman. I'd argue for the sneaky snowman. I'm honestly okay with that staying because I get it's kind of a joke item. You can use it to set a trap. It's not really competitively good, but I understand why it exists as kind of a fun item, and I think that's all right. I think that's one that I would say we should leave alone. The chiller grenade, though, I'd honestly say just straight vaulting it is the best decision. If you want to have something similar that's actually usable, unvault impulse grenades, right? You can still mess around with impulse grenade, impulse your teammates off mountains, but the point is the impulses are actually somewhat usable, while the chiller grenades are just flat out garbo. So that's really what I'd say for that. I'd say vault it. And overall, I think this would massively help the meta, as it would mean there'd be a lot less garbage items lying around. The items that are buffed are going to be actually usable, and the items that have been vaulted, you're not really going to miss because they were useless in the first place. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.